Okay, credit scores. I get credit questions all the time, and lucky for you, I'm a bit of a credit score geek. Now, my credit score is right around 806, and it's been there for years. I don't say that to brag, I say it because credit scores are pretty much a game. It's just like investing. There's a right way to do it, there's a wrong way to do it, but sometimes there's not a clear path to get to the finish line. Now, I share with my clients any sort of tips that I can that might help their personal finances, because anything I can do to help their personal finances helps my business grow. That's the way we work. Now, I actually made a video on how I specifically get paid and how financial advisors get paid. I'll be sure to put a link to that in the description below. Today, we're going to talk about one simple credit confusion that people tend to come across, and we're going to explain it in depth. Okay, so you likely have two types of credit. You have installment loans and you have revolving debt. Now, installment loans are things like cars, homes, boats, ATVs, anything like that. And revolving debt are going to be your credit cards primarily, but could include home equity lines of credit. But today we're going to focus more on credit cards. Let's start with revolving debt. One of the main factors in your credit score is called your credit utilization rate. Now, it makes up 30% of your overall FICO score, so you're going to want to spend some time on this one. Now, to make it simple, the credit utilization rate is really simply just the amount of credit you have available to spend versus how much you've actually spent. So if you have two credit cards and you have available credit of $10,000, that's your credit line between the two credit cards. And let's say you've spent $500 on one and $1,500 on the other. Well, that means you had $10,000 potentially that you could have spent. You spent $2,000, so your credit utilization rate is 20%. The reason why the credit utilization rate has such a high impact on your score, 30%, is because the credit reporting agencies, they know how much you can spend. See, this is one of those rare times where they know you could spend up to $10,000 in our previous example, and they can measure that against how much you spend. So if you could spend $10,000 and you did spend $10,000, it's very clear to them that you're the kind of person that will spend every dollar that you can bring in and probably not that good at managing your money, so that's gonna hurt your score. If you have $10,000 to spend and you only spend a little bit of it, well, you're showing them, hey, I could spend 10, but I only spent 2. That's pretty good. So naturally, you're going to want to show that you could spend a lot, but you actually only spend a little bit so that you're good at managing your money. You're also going to want to show that whatever you do spend, you're consistently paying it back, even if you don't pay it all back at the same time. Okay, so for installment debt, cars, homes, things like that, they can't see how much you actually make, right? All they see is a loan in some amount. They assume that the bank has already done their job and verified that you do qualify for that loan. So for example, if you have a $70,000 car and you make $30,000 a year, me and you are the only ones that know you're really stupid and you can't manage your money. So theoretically, you could have as many installment loans as you want. The bank is the one that takes a look at your income in that case, and they weigh it against your debt to see if you can handle that debt. So the FICO score, the credit reporting agencies, they actually don't know how much you make. So for installment loans, the timeliness of your payments is one of the big factors. The utilization rate doesn't apply here because we have no idea how much you can spend. You've already spent the chunk that the bank was willing to give you on that installment loan. So this is why when you go to credit reporting agencies or you look online, everyone always says to fix your credit score in the short term, you're going to want to do things to the revolving credit first. Some examples might be to ask for a credit limit increase. This means that if you had $10,000 and you're asking for $20,000, but you only have $5,000 on there, now your credit utilization rate just went down because of a simple call to ask them to raise your rate. Another thing you can do is if you have credit cards that have zero balances, even if they're like at retail stores or kind of weird credit cards that aren't direct Visas or MasterCards, leave them there. Let them stay with a zero balance. Remember, the more that you have available and the less that you spent, the better off your score is going to be. So don't close those cards. Now, in the long term, the most common thing you're going to hear from people is to start with the highest interest credit card that you have and start paying that first. Pay the minimum on everything else and put any extra money towards the highest credit card interest rate first. They always will say credit card because, of course, we're trying to get that utilization rate to change since that's 30% of your overall score. Once you pay the highest credit cards off, the highest interest rate credit cards off, work your way down through all the other credit cards, then go over to home equity lines of credit, then go over to auto loans and installment loans like that. Now, fixing your credit score doesn't happen immediately. Good example would be if you've ever made a late payment to a credit card company. You have to pay a fee because you're late, but it doesn't hurt your credit score. As long as you pay it within 30 days of when it was due, they won't report that to the credit agencies. So in the same respect, when you're paying off high interest credit cards and you're working your way down, they won't report all that good stuff until 30 days later. So it does take a little bit of time. Well, I hope that helps. On our website, we have tons of other great videos. In particular, on credit cards, we have another video called 5 Credit Card Myths. I'll be sure to link that in the description. Now, why do we do this? So I make these videos because the better off I can make you, then the more you can probably invest. And that's really what you have to do. You've got to invest for retirement. You've got to invest for your future. So if I can help you save some money on your personal finances, then of course, you have more money to invest. Hey, if you have retirement accounts or any market-related investments, we'd love to work with you. Feel free to leave a comment, send me an email, or as always, you can contact me directly at